Grand Rising, my loves. I hope you're having an amazing day so far. And if you're tuning into this as you're waking up, I hope that today is so magical for you. And if it is safe to do so, if you're at home or if you're sitting at a desk or laying in bed, I want to invite you to just close your eyes and just take a really deep breath and let it go. Really just arriving here to this moment. Maybe it feels good to take another deep breath in. Noticing where your breath is going, if you're breathing into your chest or into your belly, and letting it go, dropping your shoulders, stretching out your neck, unclenching your jaw, unscrunching your eyebrows. It's amazing how just taking even 30 seconds to close out the outside world, to tune into your inner world, to take a deep breath, it can really just shift something internally in 30 seconds. Like, how crazy is that? How beautiful is that? How magical is that? And so today, we're going to dive in to the most powerful tool for transformation that I have ever used. Breathwork. More specifically, the 3-part conscious connected breathwork. And if you've been in my world, if you've came to my retreats, if you're in the Holy Remembrance community, if you've done any of my free ceremonies, you have experienced breathwork. And if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, breathwork that when I'm talking about breathwork today, I'm talking about this 3-part breathing. This is where you're breathing into your belly, into your chest, and letting it go. Most facilitators use only mouth breathing for this. I will use a mix of mouth and nose, depending on the intention, depending on the group. But it's the 2-part inhale, breathing into the belly, into the chest, and letting it go. And so this is called conscious connected because you're doing it in this continuous circular way, but it's also intentional. You know, there's not a lot of pausing between this. And it's typically done lying down. Some people do it sitting up. It's easier to just get into that flow if you're lying down. I'm pretty sure the majority of people who do breath work will have music or be having some sort of guidance as they're going through this breath work. But there's different styles of breath work. So I just want to touch on that for just a second to really acknowledge them. So we have pranayama techniques. So this is things like box breathing, the 4-7-8 breath, breath of fire, ocean's breath. There's so many different names for different breathing patterns, but when people really talk about pranayama, they're talking about the short form, the breath work that you can do in 60 seconds to 5 minutes. And it's not going to give you the same sensations as breath work, which we'll talk about here in a second. So you have the pranayama, which again, breath of fire, 4-7-8, box breathing, more of those type that you'll do more in like a meditation. And then you have the Wim Hof breath work, which is where you breathe for 30 to 40 breaths, about 2.5 minutes. And then you exhale and hold, inhale and hold while you're squeezing. And then you go back and you do anywhere between 3 to 5 rounds typically. And then there's holotropic, there's rebirth, there's transformational breath work. There's so many different forms of breath work. Okay. The one that I use the most, I just refer to it as conscious connected breath work. And this is a beautiful healing modality. I've been using breathwork now for over 2 years, and it has been the one thing that has taken me from a personal growth journey into a healing journey. Because I don't think I've actually ever heard anyone talk about the difference between a personal growth and a healing. And it's kind of like the whole square and rectangle thing. You know what I mean? Like what is the saying? Every square is a rectangle, but not every rectangle is a square, or whatever. I'm not a math girly. Surely you know what I'm talking about. But personal growth for me was all about like just striving to be better, striving to do better, implementing more habits, positive habits, and culling away the not so good habits, and setting the goals and really going for them. Whereas when I was introduced to breath work, it really became an inner journey of, okay, I need to pause my focus on the external growth, and I really need to go inward on my healing journey to my inner growth. And so breathwork is really what catapulted me into truly healing, not just changing my external circumstances, but changing my internal, changing my thoughts, changing my beliefs. And the great thing about healing is when you are healing, the personal growth is a byproduct, right? If you can change your belief of, I have to work my butt off in order to be worthy of love, when you can heal that belief and transform that belief, your external circumstances are going to change as well. And so this is such a beautiful healing modality, and if you've never tried breath work, I'll leave a link down in the show notes for a calendar where you can see upcoming breath works that I'm offering. I know I'm going to be doing a 4-part series at the end of July and the 1st of August, so I'll be releasing more information about that in the coming weeks. But your breath is your life force. It's the bridge between the body and the spirit. And also, just a little side note, I'm battling a nasty cough and dry throat. So if you hear me pausing to take sips of my tea, that is why. I don't want to start coughing in your ear. So, okay, our breath is this life force. It's the bridge between the body and the spirit. And so when we are doing breath work, I want to talk about what's going on. So when we're doing breath work, what we're doing is we're actually activating either the parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system. It really depends on the breathing that you're doing. But when we're doing the 3-part connected breath, doing the mouth breathing, we're actually activating the sympathetic nervous system at first. This helps to bring up those big suppressed emotions. It helps move that stuck energy. It helps release tension, and it just kind of brings all of that up to the surface so that your body can move it out. Now, during the breathwork journey, when you have this release, then the body begins to shift into a parasympathetic state. So the parasympathetic is this rest and repair. Okay, and so this is more towards the end. And when we do breath work, when I facilitate breath work, I always end with some kind of meditation music or sound bath to just really allow you to go deep within that parasympathetic state to create this deep and calming environment so that you can really integrate everything that just happened. And so when we're doing the breath work, what we're doing is we're oxygenating the body. We're breathing in more than we usually do. And that breath, it just starts stirring up and clearing out the stagnant energy, these trapped emotions, these old beliefs that are just stagnant. They're holding you back. They're stuck. And we're stimulating the vagus nerve. Okay, and the vagus nerve is the nerve that connects your brain to your gut. It is super important when you're going into the nervous system and learning about the nervous system. And that can also help, not only regulate your nervous system, but help with the emotional release as well. And so through breath work, we're allowing the subconscious to come forward, to allow things from our past to really bubble up to the surface. And so, yes, for some people, this triggers different detox symptoms like shaking. Pretty much everyone who does breath work, in my experience, will have those intense tinglings. People will start sweating, people will stomp, kick their feet, move their hips, laugh, cry, scream. And so all of these are just your body's way of detoxing, of moving this energy, of getting it out. This is your body clearing out the things that are no longer serving you. And so every single breathwork journey can look different. I haven't really had the same breathwork experience. Everyone is different. Some I'm crying, some I'm gagging, some I'm kicking and screaming. Some of them I'm actually in like a really good place and I'm moving my body and I'm very sensual and almost like a snake, kind of like that Kundalini awakening energy. And so why do the breath work? Why is this important? Why do we put our bodies through this? Well, first of all, if you're doing breath work with a trained facilitator, especially if you're new, you need to be doing it with a trained facilitator that you trust and that helps you feel safe. If you do not feel safe with the facilitator, don't do the breath work, because you're not going to have the experience that you need to have. Your body needs to feel safe in order to do the breath work. And so why do this? Because it bypasses the conscious mind, the analytical mind. So you're going straight into your subconscious. This helps you, again, release the suppressed emotions, the trapped trauma within your body. This helps bring a sense of connectedness to your body, mind, body, heart connectedness. It helps you feel calm and clear. Every breathwork journey I have ever done, I always come back into my conscious awareness, into, I move through my day with so much calmness, so much clarity. I feel so empowered. And honestly, for me, a big thing with breathwork is it connects me to my intuition. It reconnects me to my truth, to my power. Empowerment is a huge result of breathwork, a huge side effect of breathwork. And this is why it is so amazing for a healing journey. It really is allowing yourself to surrender, to give up control, and just allow your breath to take the lead. Okay, so when you're doing, and I talked about this just a second, but I want to go deeper into this, especially if you're new to breath work. So when you're doing breath work, there's things that you might experience, like the emotional release. So the crying, the laughing, the anger, the joy. So, you know, crying, laughing, kicking, screaming, laughing. Oh, it's just so laughing. All of these things, right? Then you will have physical sensations. Mostly it's like tingling in your fingers, your feet, then it moves into your legs and arms, into your head. Some people can experience like a numbness feeling, tightness. If you start to get tetany, you can, you know, contract in on yourself, and these are all reasons why it's really important to be doing breath work with a facilitator that you know and trust and feel safe with, so they can guide you through these emotional releases, or through, you know, if you get tetany, how to get that tightness to dissipate. Another physical sensation is temperature changes. So when you're doing breath work, it's always a good idea to have a blanket nearby so you can cover up, you can kick the blanket off when you get too hot. There's also some spiritual things that you can experience. So visions, seeing different things, whether it's colors or images, or maybe you see like a scene play out, receiving a message, like an inner knowing, or hearing a message come through, feeling this deep bliss, this enlightenment, this just pure love, the feeling of oneness. There's one really strong experience that I've had where I was in Mexico, I was doing breath work, and I like shot up into the cosmos, and I was God and God was me. And when I say God, I'm not speaking in a religious sense. I'm speaking of everything. Everything was me and I was everything. And I was surrounded by stars, and it was just infiniteness. And that is an experience that I will never forget. That feeling of oneness, that deep spiritual connection. And also, I always tell people, when you're doing breath work, I've been doing breath work now, almost 2.5 years, and I still feel resistance. When I get into the breathing, 95% of the time, I am feeling resistance for the first 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is. And so if you go into a breath work, if you're, you know, maybe you're completely new to breath work, you've never experienced it, or maybe you've done 1 or 2 journeys, that resistance is normal. That resistance is your logical mind trying to keep itself at the forefront, right? But when you can just keep breathing, keep letting those thoughts go, when you fully surrender, that's when it really comes through. That's when the breath really takes you on its journey. And so breath work is really for anyone who is feeling disconnected, who's feeling stuck, who is battling with anxiety, who is having burnout, who just feels numb in life. If you're on a healing journey and maybe you've been working through one specific thing for months and months, and it's like nothing you're doing, no amount of journaling is helping you really process and release it, maybe try breath work. If you're on this path of healing or of self-discovery, give breath work a try. You don't have to be this like spiritual guru to have these really intense experiences, to have these releasing experiences. You just have to be willing to show up and to breathe. Now, there are contraindications for people that should not do breath work. So like people who are pregnant, if you have cancer, if you've just had surgery, if you have glaucoma, if you excuse me, let me take a sip of tea. If you have high blood pressure, any kind of big medical diagnosis, I would absolutely talk to your doctor first, just to make sure that it is safe for you and your care that you require. But if none of those apply to you, then give breathwork a try. Always doing it with a facilitator, having someone there to guide you. And with breathwork, it's always a good idea to go in with an intention, to set an intention when you show up to the call, or right before you get into the breath work, as you're laying there, getting into that meditative state, but also not to have any attachment, not to have any set expectations, because if you can just be super open-minded, you are going to have way better experiences than trying to control. And if you're trying to control, then you're just going to continue fighting resistance and you're not going to get anything out of it. And breathwork is a time for you to trust your body, allowing it to move, allowing your hips to move, allowing yourself to scream, cry. That is your body's way of processing, of detoxing, of letting go. And always having time to journal and process afterwards. I do these with my breathwork experiences, where when we come out of breathwork, we enter this meditation state, and when we come out of that, we have plenty of time to journal and just process that experience. And I open up space for you to share if you want to share and be witnessed. And just really making sure that you're hydrating is super important as well. And so breathwork is this beautiful journey. Just to kind of recap here, because I know we've talked a lot of different pieces of breathwork, but this 3-part conscious connected breathing is such a beautiful journey for anyone that is on their healing path. It's a great way to have emotional releases, to just let go of control and surrender, to gain clarity, to regulate your nervous system, to feel empowered. And so, if you're feeling the call to try breathwork, I offer monthly group circles, group ceremonies, and I'll leave a link in the show notes where you can sign up for one of those. If you want to do a one-on-one breathwork, if you want a little bit of a deeper, more personalized experience, I do offer these that are called sacred ceremonies. And so they end up taking about an hour and a half, and we go solely based off of what you need. It is completely customized, completely tailored to you. And so that's really a good place to start if you're completely new and the thought of doing it with other people is a little scary or maybe makes you feel a little anxious. Start there. Start with a sacred ceremony where it's just me and you, and we're diving into what you need in that moment. So breathwork is amazing. It has changed my life. I will forever be a breathwork junkie. I love doing breathwork. I make it a point to do it at least once a week. But honestly, you could do a journey every single day if you wanted to. You don't have to. But if you wanted to, you could do it every single day. So I hope that this was helpful. If you have never heard of breathwork or you've never experienced it, I hope this was helpful for you. It gave you a little bit more information. If you have more questions about breathwork, if you want to talk more about breathwork, feel free to reach out to me, DM me on Instagram at Mystica Monarch, and let's just talk about it. If you're wanting to experience it but you're feeling nervous, reach out. Because we want to get you to a state where you feel comfortable and safe, but also where you get pushed outside your comfort zone and actually get to experience the fullness of breathwork. Okay? So to close out, let's just take one really deep breath in, breathing in through your nose, into your belly. And let it go with a sigh. All right, my love. Have a beautiful rest of your day, rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon.